this piece of me, this my heritage that I took such great pride in. I couldn't believe that we have sounds like this in our music, you know? And I think while obviously this should be particularly interesting to Italian Americans, my hope is that regardless of your ethnic heritage or your musical heritage, that you would find inspiration in the sense that regardless of where you're from, our musical roots are still a rich, fertile ground for future creative development.
Hey everybody, it's Mike Jeffers, Chicago Jazz Magazine, ChicagoJazz.com, and we have another episode of Around Town. And this is a very special one. I know I say that about a lot of them, but this truly is a very unique one. We've got Anthony Taddeo on. He is in a group called Alla Boara, and he's going to fix my pronunciation as I speak through this Italian. Even though I'm half Italian, I do not speak Italian. So we'll bear with me on this, but I will have him correct us on all that. But he has this group coming into town, Constellation, March 4th, 8:30 p.m. Of course, Constellation-Chicago.com. Everything's linked up down below. 3111 Northwestern Avenue. Now, this is a group that he put together where they put a creative new twist on ancient Italian melodies and folk music. So I want to hear all about this because listening to it's very interesting, and it's going to be even more interesting seeing it live. So Anthony, welcome to the show. Welcome to Chicago. We are happy to have you coming into town, and what a great group you have here.
Mike, thank you so much. It's an honor to be here with you guys. Yeah, we couldn't be more excited. This is our debut in Chicago, so we are just absolutely excited to be there.
So get all the pronunciations correct for me, because I'm going, and everybody that watches this show knows I screw everything up anyway. So let's talk about this, the name of the band and the website, so that everybody knows that. It's all linked up below, and then we're going to talk about
right. Yeah, the name of the band is Alla Boara, and it's basically spelled like Alla, A-L-L-A, and then you can think of the word like boar with an A at the end. Boara is how it's pronounced. So Alla Boara or allaboara.com. And yeah, this whole scope of the project is trying to bring new life and recognition to this Italian folk music. And kind of the reason why I started this project is because my dad is from Italy. So I'm a first generation American, and I've always taken great pride in my heritage. But when I was at the New School in New York City, I was doing a research paper on world music, and I found these field recordings from Alan Lomax. I don't know if your listeners may know who Alan Lomax is. He's a famous American ethnomusicologist, and he spent 6 months in Italy, recording all over Italy in 1954. He recorded 2,000 hours of audio in Italy. It's really incredible. And so they have a released set, a box set of like 11 CDs that I ended up digging through and finding all over the place, eBay and libraries and all that kind of stuff. And that's really the fodder, the inspiration for the majority of the pieces that we play. And I just remember very distinctly being at the New School and hearing these recordings for the first time. My mind was just completely blown because this piece of me, this my heritage that I took such great pride in, I couldn't believe that we have sounds like this in our music, And I think while obviously this should be particularly interesting to Italian Americans, my hope is that regardless of your ethnic heritage or your musical heritage, that you would find inspiration in the sense that regardless of where you're from, our musical roots are still a rich, fertile ground for future creative development.
The thing that interests me first off is the way you just described this. I mean, were these songs kind of lost? I mean, like to a point where, maybe true traditionalists in Italy might still know some of them, but I have to imagine that a lot of it was starting to get just lost in history, right?
That's right. And specifically here, it's no one knows it because most of these are work songs. So these are songs that they would be singing while they're working in the fields. And when all of them immigrated to the United States, right, they weren't doing the same jobs. And they definitely weren't with the same people they were with. So all of those regions in Italy for a long time were kind of acting as autonomous city states, and they had their own dialects. And so like when you move into let's say you moved into an Italian neighborhood, you might speak a different dialect than your neighbor still. So
Hmm.
there was just a lot of cultural disconnect when they moved here to America, and they kind of had to make their own thing. In Italy, things like industrialization, the introduction of the radio and television, those are types of things that kind of took away from the field music because, for instance, one of our songs is it was an olive gathering song used specifically when they were gathering olives together. And now that's an industrialized field of work
Yeah.
where they don't need people to do that anymore. So why would you sing the song anymore? You know what I'm saying? But the song it's not like it's about picking olives. It's this gorgeous love song with all this beautiful imagery, and it's like, man, what can we do to keep this going, you know? And so that's how the project was really born.
So the name of the recording, Le Tre Sorelli. I'll let you say it.
Yeah,
Sorelli.
le tre sorelle.
All
Hmm.
right. So Le Tre Sorelli. And the thing that I like about this is on your website, on the website,
Hmm.
allaboara.com, you have the traditional actual tunes on there, right? With the translations of the lyrics underneath it.
Yes.
So you can really, if you're listening to this, and go check out the website, because you'll hear, what is it, about 12 songs, right? I mean, you have like 12 songs up there, and those are the original ones. Are those the original recordings that Alan Lomax recorded? And
Yeah,
so you found those and you
that's
put them
right.
up. It's really fascinating to hear it and then go and hear the recording, because you can hear exactly what we're talking about, how Anthony and the group modernized everything, but it still keeps the overall feel and the overall, sensitivity of all the tunes. It's really interesting. And to
Mm.
your point, they are gorgeous songs.
Thank you. Yeah, and also thank you for checking out that stuff on the website because I put a lot of work into trying to make that all connect and make it so that people could dive in if they wanted to. And it warms my heart to know that someone has checked it out. So that's really cool. And yeah, I hope that it kind of sparks some of the fascination that I've had throughout the process.
Well, I always think it's interesting, especially, I mean, you went to New School, I went to North Texas, and sitting there, and we had to listen
Yeah.
back, and just in jazz in general, right? You had to go all the way back to the late 1800s and start to hear how it started to form and build, and you learn the history of it. So anything like this, it just makes so much sense to go back and hear what the original was and how it got to this
Mm,
next point. It just starts to make so much sense, at least to me. I don't know.
that's
I'm a
right.
history buff. I love that stuff. And it also just helps me understand
Yeah.
conceptually. So anybody watching this should go check this out. So it's allaboara.com, and everything is linked up down below. Now you guys are coming into Constellation with this group. So
Yeah.
before we talk about Constellation, you're taking it from your research in college and putting this together and coming up with this concept to all of a sudden now, how do you get a group together of like minds to say, hey, I've got this great idea. Here's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
We're going to take these folk songs
Well,
from Italy that nobody knows about, and we're going to reharmonize and remake them and modernize them. I'm sure everybody went, oh, that sounds like a great idea. So,
luckily, this has been a process that's kind of been 10 years in the making, and I'm a sideman by trade. So the majority of my career is still sideman work.
mm-hmm.
And so there was no rush to like come up with something.
Yeah.
It's just been like a very leisurely process to put this together, and I've been thinking about it for a very long time. And I don't know if you feel this way about certain moments in life, but there's just those moments where maybe you have a desire to do something or you have a dream to do something, and then pieces just kind of start slowly falling into place and one domino falls after the other, and you're thinking to yourself, well, it's now or never, right? So that's kind of just how this happened. I started my research when I was an undergrad, but then when I was in graduate school 8 years later at Youngstown State University, that's when I started actually writing stuff for the first time. So I had just been studying it for a long time. And then when I started to write things, then I started to really hear in my head like who I was writing for, the kind of people that I wanted in the group. And then when they slowly kind of gave the nod of approval, like, sure, I'll be a part of this project, not knowing really what was going to happen with it. I just kept writing for those people, and we would get together, and it's just bloomed and blossomed into this beautiful thing that has far exceeded any expectations I would have had.
Well, and I agree with you. I think that putting a thought in your head but consistently thinking about it, not letting it go away. You got to keep thinking about it. It keeps coming back to the forefront. That's how the vibration starts. That's how things start to manifest and happen. It could happen fast. It could happen slow. It just happens at the right time. Sounds like that's what happened with this, which is fascinating. I mean, you know, this is not something that you hear every day, but the music that you're creating, you can hear the improvisation, you can hear the back and forth, the all the different layers and all the very unique rhythms too, that you're creating, you know, on the percussion, I'll say. I mean, I saw you playing a cajon, you've got tambourine, you've got a percussion set up there, but then there's very unique melodies as well, you know. I mean, those melodies are very unique, but it's unique to, when you listen to the originals, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, those aren't standard melodies. I mean, those are very different kind of unique melodies. I mean, you had to find the right vocalist to actually be able to bring it all to life.
Yeah, and Amanda Powell is exceptional, to say the least. I don't know anyone like her. She can do anything. She's classically trained, but grew up doing jazz and folk music in Appalachia. And then she spent 10 years performing Baroque music with Grammy Award winning Apollo's Fire. So her experience is just kind of all over the place. She can literally do anything. She's just like a vessel to make music. It's like whatever is required, she knows how to make it happen. And I had done some work with her in Cleveland, actually with Apollo's Fire, and I was hearing her sing in Italian on a couple of these songs, and I was like, man, that pronunciation is actually really incredible. I think if I end up doing this group, she might be the person that I'd like to see if she would be able to do it. And she was super into it, thankfully.
Yeah. Well, it sounds wonderful. So everybody go check this out, allaboara.com. But of course, check them out at Constellation Saturday, March 4th, 8:30 p.m. So are you going to be playing the new recording down at Constellation? I mean, I know you've never been there. I think Dan Bruce, who's from Chicago, is actually in the group, great guitarist. He's coming into town. So those of you that remember Dan Bruce, go check out Constellation Saturday night and say hi to Dan as well. But I mean, you guys are coming in, you're going to be playing down the tunes there, right? Of the recording live though.
We're going to, the majority of the tunes that we have will be playing from the record, and then we've got a few new ones as well.
Oh, okay. All right. So, I mean, is this the kind of thing, I mean, you mentioned that Alan Lomax actually recorded like 11 different albums basically of this folk music, right? I mean, he's got tons and tons of music. So is this something that you put out the initial couple of albums now you're going to continuously keep revamping and keep building? I mean, do you actually write original music for this? I mean, is that what this group is, or is it more of a repertory / modernization / let's see what happens with the original concepts?
That's a great question. I don't even know if I have the answer to that. We are currently, the majority of our stuff is coming from those Alan Lomax recordings. And now some other things are starting to infiltrate in, like we did a collaboration with an Italian classical pianist that lives in Cleveland, actually. He had done an arrangement of a very, very old tune from Naples, and he asked us to make an arrangement of his arrangement. So we kind of like arranged it for our group, and that's one of our new songs. I don't know. I love collaborating. I imagine that will become more and more of a thing. And I think the possibilities are really endless. We can keep going down the Italian thing, or we can branch off and do some other things here and there. So I'm not sure right now, but I'm sure I do know this. I know the second record is probably going to be mainly the Italian folk music again.
Well, and you're also developing a sound that's very unique to this group, which is something that everybody aspires to, obviously, when they start a group and they want to get a unique sound. You guys have a unique sound. So I encourage everybody to go check this out.
Thank you.
Constellation, March 4th, 8:30 p.m. Everything's linked up down below, constellation-chicago.com. Anthony, thank you so much for jumping on today, man. Congratulations on this project. It's wonderful. It's fascinating. I've never heard anything like it. I'm
Thank you.
Wishing you guys all the success here.
Thank you so much, Mike. It's a sincere pleasure. Thank you.
Absolutely. And of course, everybody, thanks for watching as usual. Everything Chicago Jazz is on chicagojazz.com. And hopefully I will see all of you somewhere out on the scene.